In the previous lesson, we discussed about the metropolis being a subject of a difficult problem that needs a change of perspective leading to the metropolitan discipline. In this lesson, we'll talk about the general issues and principles framework, which provides an environment where the academics and the practitioners can put the knowledge and experience together to cope with the metropolitan complexity. We can say that within the traditional disciplinary framework, the academics develop theoretical principles based on the reality and the goal, whereas practitioners see the issues of reality in reaching the goal. And often, these work paths are separated. Even though there has been a continuous endeavor to bring both sides together, in most cases the attempts were temporary and one-time experiment rather than a continuous build-up of knowledge that is practical theoretical. The aim of the Metropolitan General Issues and Principle Framework, the MGIP, is to create a feedback mechanism where practical experience is reflected in the theoretical work of the metropolitan discipline, taking the local environment, community, wealth, governance, and culture dimensions into consideration. We assume that the ultimate goal of the metropolitan practice is sustainability. This sustainability is met with slightly different variations under the four main dimensions of metropolis: territory, society, economy, and governance. The dimensions are the field of actions of metropolitan projects. These categories seek to understand the metropolitan question from a holistic standpoint, contrary to the traditional methods of having goals based on the academic sectors and existing government structure. In the territorial dimension, we aim at the inventive resiliency. The term inventive emphasizes the active engagement and reaction to the critical environmental problems we are facing rather than a passive endurance. The social dimension requires equality, the economic dimension aims for prosperity, and the governance dimension needs equilibrium. Within this basic structure, the collaboration of the collective intelligence yields holistic solution addressing all dimensions of the metropolis. The reality indicates the existing situation of a built metropolis. It is the starting point of acknowledging the issues to address and the principle ruling the specific context. The goal is the real objective of a metropolis, which is ultimately the sustainability of the metropolis for the well-being of its citizens. Gaps are recognized as the deficiency in reality to reaching the goal. From the literature and the case studies, academics set the principles that define what to achieve, how and why for reaching the goal. On the other hand, practitioners face the issues which are the undesired outcome of metropolitan dynamic and often act as a hindrance for meeting a metropolis expectations. The reconnection of the ideal city with the real built city in the MGIP framework comes through the process of operator and the related concept of operation that bring the principles and issues together for finding how to transform, develop or maintain the existing situation and reach the goal of sustainability. From this perspective, both the theoretical field of the academic knowledge and the practical field of the governance and management of a metropolis are equally acknowledged. Operators are rules of shape, that is, they are logical tools that enable to produce concrete entities from theoretical concepts through a complex process. Operations are the specific actions following the operator to address the given issue and bridge the gap between the reality and the goal. These operators and operations are represented visually as maps using open source data, which you will see in the Metropolitan cartography tool. The operator as a logical process consists of two moments: extraction and concretization. The extraction moment aims at exploring metropolitan dynamics and, as a consequence, the intention of the project, and at translating them into information through data related to the elements of the metropolitan context that need investigation. Reducing the metropolitan complexity into metropolitan dynamics is an important role of the MGIP framework. Compared to the entire entangled system that is the metropolitan complexity, metropolitan dynamics represent a series of phenomena explaining the issue and the gap in reality. These are related to specific topics and issues, therefore have limited factors to consider compared to the entire complexity. Recognizing metropolitan dynamics is one of the most important works of the collective intelligence. The academics, together with the practitioners and metropolitan inhabitants, will understand the issues and define the dynamics in a holistic way. The second moment of the operator process, concretization, aims at forming catalogs of data that are selected according to valid judgments expressing the intention of the project. Selected catalogs of information, or semantic packages, are used to produce georeferenced maps of metropolitan dynamics needed to determine the metropolitan projects. The rules for selecting data, creating catalogs of information, and their synthesis into semantic packages constitute the operator process for translating into concrete operation what was previously conceived on an abstract level. The maps produced under the ethical lens of sustainability are therefore a mental representation of reality. Nevertheless, they become operators of reality through the concrete operations they suggest. In fact, the georeferentiation and the representation of data, that is, the semiology of space, indicates the quality and quantity of the different points in the maps as potential points of intervention of the metropolitan projects. Through maps, it is therefore possible to reveal the specific importance of the metropolitan architecture projects as projects for the quality of life and the well-being of the metropolitan citizens. Now, let's take a look at an example in the territorial dimension. Under this scope, the goal is to reach the inventive resiliency of the territory. The academics realize that the continuity in the green infrastructure is a principle to reach the goal, whereas the practitioners understand the unsustainable development model focusing only on the economic profit is one of the issues preventing this goal. We can say the gap between the goal and reality is social responsibility and the recognition of the value of green infrastructure. A continuous shape can be expressed as an urban-rural linkage continuum, the operator, and use the eco-amateur design methodology, the operation, to do the project, address the issue, and fill the gap. For instance, such project could be a pattern of settlement, including a buffer zone between urban and rural, with common areas encompassing a series of hybrid functions ranging from public to the private. This is a simple example in a single dimension, but in the actual process, the issues, principles, operators, and operations take all other dimensions in account. In the next lesson, we will explore the metrodology, the methodology of applying this framework in actual context using the new tools of Metromatrix and the Metropolitan cartography.